Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about The Gray Man. This is the kind of big action blockbuster follow-up kind of thing from the Russo brothers. I guess follow-up to all their Marvel stuff, even though they made Cherry, but it's like the big blockbuster follow-up, I guess, on Netflix. And it's, I guess, their big swing at making their own sort of thing outside of the MCU. And it's not very good, and I don't think they know what they're doing. And it was just depressing because I think we all thought they were real good in the MCU and had faith in them until this. And I think this, when I was watching it at first, I was like, okay, they're being quippy, and you have Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans, and the few times they're on the phone call together, they're quippy back and forth, and felt like two movie stars together in a blockbuster, which we don't get to see anymore. So I was like, this is cool and this is unique. I sort of am getting flashbacks to certain things, so I like that. But I also noticed before he took the phone call, there was this cool action sequence in a plane, and they basically, they're supposed to kill him, and by the end of the action sequence, the plane explodes and everyone else dies, but not Ryan Gosling. And as I'm watching it, I'm noticing, like, when is the plane going off? What's the geography of all this? And I don't really understand what's going on, my sense of space, how the plane is falling apart. And I was like, that's a problem, but maybe that won't happen again. And let me tell you, the action sequences just get worse and worse and less clear, and just breaking rules without understanding why they're doing it. It is a fucking mess. And this movie kind of face plants in, it's using a general spy kind of thing, but it doesn't really know what it's doing with that at all. Basically, the idea of the Gray Man is someone who has no connections to family or whatever, is going to jail, but the CIA is going to hire to do all the stuff they don't want to tell people that they do or something, because otherwise the CIA is really chill and really good and has a lot of good motivations. But this one guy, he's gonna do this stuff they don't want to tell you about. So Ryan Gosling is that guy, and he was about to kill someone he doesn't, and then someone fights him, and he has, of course, a hard drive that will reveal something. I don't remember, who cares? But because he has this hard drive, they start going after Billy Bob Thornton, who brought him into the program, who's sort of like a father figure to him, and they get his niece, who is sort of who Billy Bob Thornton takes care of, and Ryan Gosling has an attachment to, and they're trying to defeat these bad guys so they can be freed, and that his kind of found family is safe and all that stuff. And he tries to get away, but they've hired another kind of a Blackwater independent contractor guy played by Chris Evans to help them track him down, so Chris Evans can be a jerk and stuff and have fun. This part was originally offered to Chris Evans, but he did not want to do that. He wanted to do his role in Knives Out in a big blockbuster, so good for him. Him in this sort of reminds me of the thing, I forget who said it, but it was the quote that all actors have about 3 roles, and I was like, oh, it's Captain America and Jerk, and wonder what the other one is. But I mean, he's good in it as that guy, but it was like a little like, I mean, I know I've seen this before, dude. This very much has Christopher McQuarrie envy without understanding why Christopher McQuarrie stuff works so well in the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies. And this whole idea of a MacGuffin, which is central to so many spy things, and Hitchcock who invented it, and I have a video called What is a MacGuffin? It explains the whole thing. But it's basically a nonsense term, and it shows the idea of it is basically the journey is better than the destination. He even says it doesn't matter what the MacGuffin is. Like, it doesn't matter what the 39 steps are. Do they explain what the 39 steps are in the 39 steps? Yeah, but you don't actually need to. Like, I tried to remember it, and I watched it recently, and I don't know what the 39 steps are, but I know it's a fun movie, and that's the point. The point is, you should like the journey, the destination doesn't. What I think this movie is trying to do is have the stakes be, what if it's his family instead of just a MacGuffin and this, like, abstract thing? And, like, I sort of get why you'd think that. But here's the thing, is, like, that's not how these movies work. Like, you didn't really think about the genre. I think a lot of directors do this thing where they look at, like, not good directors, which is, I don't think this film is well directed or well thought out in terms of its genre, because you have to understand why you do a certain rule, not just break it because you're like, well, fuck it. And so few times does that actually work out for anyone. It just doesn't really hit, and the girl is like super smart and like can really likes records and stuff. It's just like this movie feels very written. It feels like not in a good way at all. It feels like they are trying to get their own blockbuster after the MCU and get a lot of money, but it just feels like an utter sad mess because it's like I get less and less interested in it. It has these kind of drone shots that they try to be like edgy with, and it's like the drone will see the location then like take a hard left or something. It's like, and they only did it once, a cool drone shot where they showed there's a finale in this big mansion and they went from one action sequence to the other, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of a cool show off thing. But a lot of the drone stuff, I was like, I don't know, guys. I think I had the same thing with Taika Waititi that I had with them, is that I had a lot of faith in them as directors, and I see this one movie and suddenly it like nosedives. But in this, it's like there's so many action sequences that I thought, some of the hand combat is good. But there's like one part where Ryan Gosling's like tied to a chair in a square, and they have like all these action sequences, and I really kept saying like, what is going on right now? Like I can't tell what's going on. I can't, like, there's none of the cutting makes sense, none of the geography makes sense. Like, what is the point of this? And there's a part in that he's on a train and he like shoots a guy because he sees him in the reflection of the building, and it was just not staged well. It was not told well. Like, there should have been a beat where you see that he sees the guy and he realizes what he's going to do. And it doesn't even have to be that long. But because it's not established very well, that moment doesn't really land. Although it does, in the credits, assume you think that scene landed because they had a Marvel-esque opening, beginning, end credits sequence for whatever reason. I know this is based on books and stuff, but I think for films like this to work, you have to have a director who really knows what they're doing. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark only works because Spielberg is at the height of his powers as a director. That's why that film is like still considered one of the greatest adventure films of all time, but it also understood what it's trying to do, and this film doesn't. It's trying to be quirky, it's trying to be different. It feels almost like they were in this corporate job and they're like, we're gonna let loose and do these things, but like, this is not how you do it. To do these kind of films, you kind of have to be a well-managed, like, particular director and understand what you're doing, and it feels like they're just throwing caution or any rules into the wind because they can, and it's like, cool, good for you. You have all these movie stars. It really overcast. Like, I don't get why Ana de Armas is in this. I don't get Bridgerton guy was fine. Like, I just don't. It just felt like Billy Bob. It's like, you don't see him a lot. It's fine, but like, it did feel overcast. It did feel like they had action sequences that were just so cut up to shit, and like, I guess it's trying to do the Bourne identity or the Bourne franchise thing, which the Bourne stuff's like not even what action's about nowadays. Which that is one thing I did think about, is like, I don't think this film even understands where it is in the context of action right now. I don't think they really watch action movies beyond the Marvel movies, and you can kind of tell that they don't know that. They're trying to do like very Blade Runner influence thing in the beginning, which is weird because they had Ryan Gosling and Ana de Armas there. Do you think they were like, hey, well, Deacon's used a different gel here, you shouldn't do that? Like, that is that weird when actors are in a movie and it's referencing a movie they were in, and they don't, like, do they bring it up? Like, I wonder. These are the things I was thinking about rather than like the movie. I'm surprised. I thought this would just be a sturdy, nice, fun, tight thriller, and it seems like they were very determined not to do that in a way that is embarrassing. And I think, they really want to prove themselves, and really the only way to prove themselves like sturdy filmmakers is make a really tight, well-done spy movie. And the Gray Man is not that. It's supposed to start a franchise. I am extremely not interested. Maybe if you get a really cool villain or something, but I think I've learned my lesson with this one. I just don't get what they were thinking with a lot of their direction. It just was really off the entire time and extremely disappointing. It shows me maybe the Russos needed Marvel much more than Marvel needed the Russos. And I think the Russo brothers need to understand what they want to be as directors at this point, and not fuck around in these genres without really finding out who they are as auteurs. Because I don't really get this tried to do the Marvel thing, but it's very much like them and hey, Winter Soldier worked for the espionage stuff, and like they've introduced characters which they didn't do a great job in here with both Spider-Man and Black Panther, who are huge characters. So I actually think they can do this. I think they're just trying to be artistically different. And there's nothing worse than, like, I remember that film Lawless. I saw it like 10 years ago. It was horrible because they were like, let's combine like sort of arty stuff with a gangster film. And a lot of times, like, there's certain things like The Godfather and like what Scorsese does and stuff that really works. And then there's like everyone else who are just throwing out the rules and not really thinking about what they're doing. And it's just played like directors who are too naive, but also been in the business too long to be as naive as their direction was, in hoping this all came together. It didn't. And I think, the gray might mean opaque and uncertain. Maybe that's a metaphor for them artistically. But I think it's pretty black and white that we don't really need this movie right now. And I don't think this movie even really needed us. So best to leave it alone and hope eventually they figure out how to actually, be a good director, or not just pretend they could be Christopher McQuarrie. So they sort of just didn't prove anything other than maybe the real auteur in some of those films was more Feige than them this whole time. So if you've seen The Gray Man and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.